What if I just never introduced you for the entire show and just had to make people guess what your name is, person who's on this show with me? Hello.
Hi.
There we go. What a fantastic opening to Take Your Time, a Persona 5 Royal in real time podcast where we go through Persona 5 Royal week by week in real time according to the time of the in-game calendar, which is also the time of our real world lives. I'm your host, Jonathan Dornbush, joined by Tom Marks. Tom, it's good to see you. How you doing?
Hooray! I qualified. I'm good. How are you?
I only wanted to keep it going a minute. I didn't want people, to be unsure of you. Sometimes, especially for audio listeners, if you're just listening to a voice, if I don't tell you who that person is, it could be anyone.
Yeah, well, I thought maybe people would be worried, wonder if there's a guest, and then there's no guest. It's just me.
It's just Tom. But, that's how if that's most days for me, it's just Tom. It's a great day, in my opinion. So,
aw, shucks.
I'm happy to have you here discussing Persona 5 Royal, and we're going to be getting into the week of September 27th through October 3rd, which I will be honest with you all out there, I was a little worried about as we were going through, because we were saving the palace for next week. Not much was happening. I couldn't get the confidant lines that we said we wanted to get. And then things happened at the end of the week. But we'll get there in a little bit. And before we get there, in general, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do. So, Tom, I want to start with the pop quiz answer for the week.
Yes, so last week I asked, there was that scene with Hifumi and Yusuke and Chihaya all at Akihabara in the air conditioning section. And I asked, in his own words, why was Yusuke there at all? And a lot of people got this right, or at least generally right. But the exact wording Yusuke uses for why he's there is, or Jonathan, did you know this one?
I did, but then I saw a lot of the comments, so I
cool.
figured
so
I'll
it's
leave
spoiled.
it up to
Yeah. You darn smart commenters spoiling it for Jonathan. Week. Anyway, yes. So his exact wording is that he says his dorm is a burning hellscape, which is very Yusuke. And so his dorm is way too hot, so he can't do art. So he just came to be there. And I think he even says something about he debated bringing his paints and his easel so that he could just paint in this electronics store,
which would be amazing.
Yeah, to mooch off the free air conditioning.
In at least for me, and I assume you've had this experience as well, and for people maybe outside of the U.S., I don't know how it typically is, but when you go to a Best Buy or something, there are often kiosks where it's here's a couple couches and surround sound speakers to let you get in the vibe of what it would be like in a living room. I think it'd be really funny if you just went to one of those simulation areas and there's just a dude painting, and it's is he supposed to be part of this? Is this demonstrating how a room like that works? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been even better if you just go back to that place and you see him in the background painting in future weeks. Would be really good. But yes, congrats to everyone who got it right. I think the vast majority of comments from this week on the YouTube version were people nailing what the moment was, even if they didn't have the exact text. So congrats to everyone out there. Before we go on as well, though, I did want to point to a few comments and an email we got. First off, on the comments, a lot of the sentiment was very much around, I didn't know about postcards either. So thank you to everyone out there for letting me know I'm not alone.
It's cryptic. It's it's one of the weird sort of out of the way things, and it's very valuable. So it's funny that I'm not surprised that a lot of people hadn't heard about it.
Yeah, which makes sense, but thank you, Tom, for letting us all know about that. Zenpai in particular said, well, guess I'll start up another playthrough just for the postcards. Having never fully leveled up Iwai, Kawakami, Oya, and the Kid, which we haven't discussed the Kid yet, but we'll get there someday. Also, shout out to frequent commenter Mitch, who said, prepping like crazy to attempt the disaster of a boss fight this week. Good luck, everyone. Mitch was saying they didn't do the event for the pop quiz, so good luck to everyone out there, and we'll discuss a little bit of that without spoilers.
Yes,
this week,
just a little bit.
But
we're not going to go into detail. But I did it this week, and I just a word of warning for anybody who has not yet. Basically,
exactly
is what we'll do.
And then last comment from the YouTube version of the show was from Steven, who said, "Great podcast, guys. I just started listening a few weeks ago and I'm already on episode 10. Wanted to comment where you would see it. Can't wait to catch up." This was, of course, a comment on episode 25. So, Steven, when you get to episode 26, hello. Thank you for listening so much. Glad you've been enjoying the show. We appreciate it. Please let us know how long it takes you to get there. But we appreciate you listening, and everyone out there who's been listening and writing in and commenting. If you don't want to comment on the YouTube channel, you want to write in a little bit lengthier, you can send emails to dornology@gmail.com, like Harrison did. And Harrison wrote in and said, "Hello, Jonathan, Tom. I discovered the Take Your Time podcast last week after I was getting nostalgic for Royal, so I binged it while I was working. I played the original Persona 5 for the first time last year, around when quarantine started. I was in a very dark place personally, as I had just been laid off from my first full-time job out of college, and of course the world was on fire. Persona had been in my backlog since the previous November, when my friend made me pick it up for a Black Friday sale. After I finished Kamoshida's Palace, I was hooked. Playing the game for the first time was a gaming experience unlike any I ever had. I loved the game so much, about a month after I had finished it, I bought Royal and played through it. Needless to say, Persona 5 and Royal helped me to get through one of the worst periods of my life and changed it forever. Listening to both of your experiences playing through Royal has been such a treat. Both of you played the game so differently from me, but that's the beauty of the game, right? I love how everyone's experience can be so unique depending upon what they decide to prioritize. In future episodes, I was wondering, when you discuss palaces, would it be possible for you to discuss your party makeup for the majority of the palace? Party builds are always so interesting to me because it shows me different strategies for how people like to play through the game. I think it will add a new layer toward the palace discussions. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to listen to the next episode on Monday. Best, Harrison."
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, the party makeup thing. I will say, there wouldn't be much to discuss for me up until this point, because my strategy for party makeup was almost exclusively put in whoever had the least experience and try to keep everyone leveled evenly.
Yeah, very much
and
the same.
Now that I have Mishima maxed and everyone gets the same amount of XP no matter if they're in the main party or not, now I start actually deciding a little more strategically who I do or don't want in the party. So I can talk about that for this palace for sure. And hopefully Mishima will show up for Jonathan at some point, and he can follow suit with that too.
Am I missing just a Mementos request that I forgot about?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's just a timing thing, because I haven't seen him show up as a hangout while maxed thing for me either.
Gotcha.
So I think it's just a timing thing.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get to Mishima at some point, but apologies to Mishima, we won't be talking about you this week. But we will, in fact, be talking about the week of September 27th through October 3rd. Again, as a reminder, we'll be discussing the full Okumura Palace next week, so you probably should plan to have played it by then, especially because otherwise you won't progress in the game. So you should definitely do it, and we'll discuss the totality of the palace then. But we're going to be going through another largely, free time week, except for the very end of the week. So barring, I think, anything crazy coming up, this will probably be a bit of a quicker pace to the beginning of the show. But Tom, why don't we start with you? September 27th, how did you spend this day?
Yeah, September 27th, I leveled on during the day, and then leveled Chihaya during the evening. And nice. So it was a pretty low-key sort of day of just getting on. I think On's now at 8. Okay. And Chihaya's at this point at 7.
Okay.
So getting along with them, just a little closer towards that end.
I was actually going to ask you, because I hung out with On, I think, once later in this week, but I was going to ask where you were with her, because in my first playthrough of the game, since she was one of the first party members, and she was one I was thinking of romancing at first at the beginning, I went all the way through that confidant line first.
Right.
But I've kind of let her be on the back burner, which I feel a little bit bad about, since she's a first friend. But
I mean, it's so hard to juggle. You have so many people to hang out with at any given time, and as that email said, right, there's so many different ways you can go through all of this and so many choices you can make. So I think the first time I played through, I let On kind of sit for a really long time. This time I've been prioritizing her kind of middle of the pack, right? And then I'm letting, I'm only 4 with Makoto, right? Yeah. So It's I know what you mean. It feels bad to like not progress like your closest friends canonically or whatever, but she's getting close to maxed out for me now.
Cool. For me, speaking of Makoto, I hung out with her during the day for rank 6. I think I had finally passed you needed max charm, and I think I got that last week.
Gotcha.
So I hung out with Makoto to finally get rank 6 up. And then in the evening as well, hung out with Chihaya, which was, I think, maybe rank 2. I'm super early on still with her. So it was one of the like very early ranks. But I finally was like, I should probably hang out with Chihaya just to get this going a little bit.
Yeah, you got to get her to that 5 level.
Yeah, exactly. Which
I spend $5,000 every single day on Chihaya to use her affinity reading thing, like every single day.
How much money do you have?
I had going out of Mementos, the last Mementos trip, I had about 700,000, and then I spent all of that right before the palace, or like leading up to the palace, and then I did the palace this week, which I'll mention later, but coming out of that, then I think I was back up to like 650.
Okay. Even though I've played this game through full, I've been hoarding like 400,000 yen just in case, like as a rainy day fund. And it's like I literally know how to play this game, and it won't be a problem if I spend it. But in the back of my head, I'm like, you might need it. Something might go wrong.
There are a couple of like big ticket items that are useful to suddenly have, right? So yes, I understand that, but also a couple things like the Chihaya thing I just pump money into every day and don't think about it.
That's fair.
Smoothie, I buy the smoothie thing every week and just don't think about it.
I did that this week for a stat that I already had maxed out because I wasn't even thinking about it.
I actually did the smoothie too I have proficiency maxed out in the smoothie. I mean, we can talk about this on the Sunday, but since we learned from you missing one, right, that they are set every week, and if you skip one, it sticks there. Yeah. So if you don't drink it, you'll never get a new one. So I had to drink the proficiency smoothie so that eventually it could turn into something else.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really interesting that it does that, because that's not how that would work in real life. But
well, we didn't sell this smoothie last week, so it's still on sale.
We'll just hold on to it. Yeah. 6 months later, they're like, "You sure you don't want this smoothie?" And it's like bubbling and green. There's something living in it. Anyway, moving on from there, September 28th. Was a largely free time day. There was a chance on the train, I believe, to read.
Yeah, get to read on the train.
So what did you end up reading?
I finished the Jinbocho knowledge book, the hard knowledge book.
Okay.
So cool. Now I've read 2 of the 3 of those.
Nice. I also maxed out that knowledge book and got max knowledge.
Hey, congrats.
Which I wrote down in my notes as max knowledge, baby, with like 10 Ys.
Congrats, you're a nerd.
I am, hell yeah. And that makes answering questions in class pointless. But we did also have a question in class.
We did.
Which was one of those like 3-part ones where essentially Morgana walks you through the answer. And this is the thing I've dealt with often in my life.
The phantom vibration syndrome? Is that what they call it? Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely been times in my life where I'm like, my phone is going crazy. No one cares about me. Okay, never mind. But that was the question in class. And that one was really... I enjoyed that one because, again, it was like, why are we learning this in class? But it is a funny, like, realistic part of life now.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, though, how did you spend your free time on the 28th?
That day, I leveled Futaba. So I got Futaba to 4, I think?
Okay. What happened in that one, if you don't mind?
I think that's the one where you go to school with her.
Okay. Cool.
And then that evening... There was, I guess, apparently nothing at all to do in the evening, so I finished the, like, ER parody show DVD for Kindness.
Okay, nice. Do you know what Kindness level you're at the moment?
I'm at 4 at Kindness. Kindness was the stat that so I have proficiency maxed, I'm very close on getting Charm up, and Kindness is the one that I want next. and it was also the one that is farthest away. So I've been pumping a lot into kindness and just slowly sort of chipping away at that.
Okay. How do you know it's the farthest away? I'm going to sound like an idiot right now, but like...
you go to the bathroom.
Oh.
So if you go into a bathroom either at Shujin or... I think we've talked about this like weeks ago too. But if you go into a bathroom at Shujin or in LeBlanc and you say, I'd like to think or whatever, it'll tell you how close you are to... In rough terms, how close or far you are in each stat.
Okay. That's ringing bells. Because the silly thing is, I really love the social stats aspect of things and going for it. That star tells you nothing.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy because every time it like, oh, you got another point. And I'm like, but you didn't move. You look the same.
Yeah. It's also, I knew because kindness was the last one I got to 4.
That would also help you there, yeah.
But yeah, kindness I'm focusing because it's the gate for Sojiro, getting Sojiro's next level or whatever, and then and I want to do that, and then also because it is, I think I might have said this, I might be a broken record at this point last week, but it is the thing that I feel like you get the least incidental points in, so I figured it was the thing worth prioritizing at this time.
Yeah, having Sojiro just hanging out there every evening, and it's like, you could hang out with me if you were kinder, is real rude when you consider how much of a jerk he's been to you in the past.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, just to cap off that day, I was hanging out with Futaba as well that day. I think I'm 1 ahead.
Okay.
Because there was a thing about that hangout I wanted to ask you about, but maybe I will off show just to avoid spoilers. And then I hung out with Hifumi, which required max knowledge, so I was able to like keep progressing that aspect of it. So I hung out with her as well.
Nice.
Moving on from there, September 29th, what did you end up doing?
29th, well, we had another quiz, right? This one was a quiz about like what department of the government fishermen are part of or something. Yeah. I think that's a quiz that just ties into like the whole government aspect, like politics aspect more than anything else. I don't think the fisher part of it was related necessarily.
I mean, you can go fishing in the game, so you know.
That's true.
It's probably...
I haven't done that yet much.
I did it once to get the trophy.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that day was the day I did the palace.
Okay.
So I started and finished the palace on September 29th. Nice. Got through the whole thing. And then in the evening, I got a questionable massage from my teacher. And then and then I went to darts so that this is slightly spoilers if you haven't done the palace, but also not really spoilers, is that Haru only becomes like an actual party member after you've like started the palace. So once I went through the palace and I was back out, she was then available to like actually rank up her baton pass in darts. So I did darts and I maxed out her and Morgana, who was the last person that wasn't maxed out on baton pass for me, which took I think 3 or 4 resets to make them like both show up at the same time, which was annoying. But yeah. I mean, it's such a time save to not to do that hassle. And I did that mostly because I wanted to use Haru and Morgana in the boss coming up.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I want them in the boss, so I want their baton pass to be really high, and yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, and obviously you can say this maybe later in the show as well, but just in terms of, because I know that this is a pretty contentious palace when it comes to things. So if you had any, like, not just for the boss, because I know we'll do a little bit of spoiler-free advice there, but if there's anything, like, for the palace in general, you had, like, a spoiler-free bit of advice for...
For the palace in general, actually not really.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about this next week. We're going to get into the specifics of this next week. We've alluded to it a little bit already, but they did a really good job making the palace itself a lot more approachable. They like the best spoiler-free example of this is like there are definitely more safe rooms than there were. Like they give you safe rooms pretty frequently in this palace now, whereas I believe that was kind of an issue the first time, was like you could get pretty deep in and then just like be like, oh no, like I don't remember the last time I've saved.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I think for the palace itself, don't worry about it.
Cool.
It's really just the boss that is the thing that is rough.
And we'll get a little bit more to that again without spoiling it a little bit later in the show. But yeah, just to keep the train going, September 29th for me was just another quick hangout day. Hung out with Makoto during the day, ranked her up again, and then ranked Chihaya up again as well because, like I said, I wanted to not ignore that one to get up to that 5 moment. But it was a pretty quiet day otherwise for me. So how did you end the month on September 30th?
September 30th, I got to slack off in class to end the month, which was great.
Me too, yeah.
So I started reading, I think it was the Charm book?
Me too. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
We've just been reading these books in tandem completely by accident. It is not.
That's great.
It's really funny.
So I read the Charm book in class, and then that was the day I sent the calling card because there was not much else to do. So I said, Sure, send the calling card. I don't want to tell you what I did in the evening. So when you send the calling card, you get an evening in LeBlanc.
Okay.
So I watched a movie or a TV show for kindness. I watched Mouse MD.
Yeah, you did. Hell yeah, you did. I was like, are you going to spoil something? What is going to happen with the calling card day? No, but you watched
Mouse.
Well, that's great. I'm a huge Mickey Mouse fan, so I love when they're able to reference that adorable little creature. And nothing else.
Mouse MD parody is actually really funny because it is literally just like if you listen to both the VO and the dialogue, it's just like it is literally the concept of the show is literally just House, but it's a mouse doctor curing other mice. Like that is, it's about like a curmudgeonly mouse doctor who cares about his patients, but like goes against the system and like it's literally just House, but as mice.
I mean, I would watch that show.
I would too.
That sounds great. Like, oh my god.
The parodies are really good.
Yeah.
Like the movies and the TV shows that you watch, the DVDs that you watch, like the VO in those and the goofs, like the parody goofs are really funny. And I genuinely wonder if anybody has the answer to this question. I haven't looked it up. I wonder if those are different in Japan.
Just about to ask, yeah.
Like parodies of Japanese shows, because I don't know how popular House or ER are in Japan, right? And obviously I can't sit here naming Japanese TV shows that would be referential like this. So I really wonder. Yeah,
like obviously we get anime in the US pretty heavily, but in terms of like live action dramas is not a thing that until streaming services is not a thing from internationally that you get in the US as much. So I would fathom a guess that House is not a huge Japanese staple of their pop culture diet, but I don't know.
Yeah, if anybody actually knows the answer to that question, I'd love to hear it because I really, really enjoy the parodies here. Yeah, and I hope that they are appropriately referential and funny in other languages as well.
Yeah, like shout out to the localization team in general for the monumental task of this game, but to get those so right and so specific, as you said, that's what made me wonder, like, these got to be different from region to region, right? Because there's just too many, I think, American pop culture staples that I wouldn't assume always translate overseas.
Yeah,
but I'm very happy you were able to watch the one parody that we've all been waiting for.
I saw that show up in the DVD's rental place like 2 months ago, and I was like, I'm just not going to bring it up. Yeah, I'm just not going to bring it up.
I haven't seen it yet.
I needed kindness today, and I was like, damn it.
Well, I want to ask, does the mouse ask if it's lupus?
Well, I'll have to watch episode 2 and let you know.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. And then, like, who's the Cuddy parody? I want to know.
It's got to be like Kitty.
Yeah. Kitty.
Is that too easy?
Kitty's, yeah, but that works. Wonder who Olivia Wilde and Cal Penn are in the show. I have so many questions about Mouse MD, but we'll get there, in time, of course. What day were we on? September 30th?
September 30th.
So September 30th, I hung out with On, as I had said earlier. I think got her rank up to 7, I want to say. And then I traded in some dirty clothes because I realized I had so much from my last Mementos trip to get more points at the store. And then hung out with Oya in the evening. Again, to give her due, I am hanging out with Oya, so that was another rank up. And yeah, it was a good hang until it got weird. But we'll get there at some point. Anyway, moving on. It is now spooky times. October 1st has begun. Tom,
hooray!
Did you go to the boss fight for the palace?
Yeah, that was the boss day.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep this spoiler free, but anybody who's already done the boss already knows this. But anybody who hasn't done the boss yet, what I will say is, set some time aside. Basically, it is a frustrating boss. It is a relatively long fight, and it's a fight that I would wager very few people will be able to beat on their first try, because it is a little bit of a puzzly sort of thing you have to work out. It is no joke. It is frustrating. I looked up a guide my first time on how to beat it efficiently. I had to look up that guide again this time to be like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Because I think I died 3 times this time and beat him on the 4th. And yeah, it's just a frustrating fight. It is basically what I'm saying now, we're going to get into it obviously next week, but what I'm saying now is just set aside time. Be prepared that this will take you maybe 2 to 3 hours potentially, depending on your, comfort level and the party you bring in and all that sort of stuff. It is. And if you just fly through it and you don't need to listen to me, that's great. More power to you. I'm not saying that, that's, whatever. It's just, it is a notorious boss for a reason, and it will probably take time.
Cool. Well, if only that tied into the theme of this show's name. But yeah, I am cautiously approaching that boss fight for next week, and we'll see how it goes and discuss more in full then. Did you do anything in the evening?
Yeah, that evening I leveled EY. So I'm getting a little far. I think I'm at 5 or 6 with him now. I'm getting deeper in.
Nice. Okay, cool. I also hung out with EY that evening, but not for a level up because we were pretty... I had not done the last step well, so just hung out with him in general, went to the park, and he gave me a swan boat.
Yeah, swan boat!
Which is actually
last week.
It's my first gift from anyone.
Oh.
Because I've been doing so few intermittent hangouts.
Sure.
So this was my first gift, finally, to be able to put on the shelves by my bed. But during the day, I hung out with Makoto again. And suffice to say, by the end of the week, got pretty close to the end of that quest line. But cool. Or that confidant line, excuse me. But yeah, that was it for my October 1st. So moving on from there, October 2nd, our last day of free time for this week. What did you end up doing?
Yeah, I leveled Yusuke that day. So I got him to 8.
Okay.
Because I figured I could have hung out with a bunch of people, right? Because at this point the palace was done, so I could have hung out with Futaba, On, Yusuke, and Makoto were all available for a level up.
Oh, nice.
But I figured I might as well try to prioritize Yusuke because you've already finished him, correct?
Months ago, my dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
All right. How you doing on Takemi? How you doing on Mishima? Yeah.
Oh no, the call is breaking up. I think you're going through a tunnel.
Anyway, no, yeah. So basically, I figured I might as well.
Cool.
Of On and Yusuke, just prioritize Yusuke, so we could potentially talk about him in the coming weeks, potentially, cool. Depending on obviously next week is Palace, and then we're getting into post Palace stuff, but at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I leveled Yusuke, and then in the evening, I hung out with Chihaya and got her Mementos request.
Oh,
so
cool. Okay.
I'm at the gate for that, which I'm really happy about because I'm prepping to go to Mementos again.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, I was prepping. I was thinking about going to Mementos this week, but I realized I could get a few more requests, so I think I'll do that post Palace at some point. But
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I got to rank 9 with Makoto on this day, which is cool. The romance or not option. Yes. Since we're not discussing romance yet, I can spoil what I did or didn't do, or we can hold that for later.
Oh yeah, I mean you can go ahead if you're hooked now.
I romanced Makoto.
Hey, congratulations. Mazel tov.
Thank you. You know, it's been a long time coming. We worked through our issues. Obviously, you know, it was a contentious beginning to our relationship when she threatened to expose us to the police. But we saw, you know, the error of our ways. And have joined in holy date matrimony.
We saw the error of our ways when she after saying she threatened to expose you to the police is the most like, man, that's manipulative.
But no, I swear it's a healthy relationship. Anyway, so yes, romanced Makoto at the end of it, and then saw a movie with Futaba in the evening.
Oh, nice.
I thought it was just going to be a confidant line when I answered the text, and then we just went to a movie, so that's fine.
Cool.
It was a few extra like friendship points, so I should be fine the next time we hang out. But yeah, just a quiet end to things, and then we get to October 3rd. And here I was, the end of the week. We went through the week a little bit quickly because October 3rd, unexpectedly for me, was quite busy.
Tom, I'm so excited that this was happening. So I've beaten Royal already.
Yes,
so I look ahead on the calendar online to kind of like, just like do some recon for like what we're going to be talking about each show, or like kind of the pacing of like when palaces end or begin according to the week schedule, that sort of thing. And so I knew this has been coming for like a month. And I was really excited for it because this feels like the first sort of like really big new thing in Royal, right? Like there not that there hasn't been a ton of new stuff with Kasumi and Maruki and like the Akechi confidant line and changes to palaces and bosses and yada yada yada. But this day feels like sort of the moment where it's like, ooh, like this is really different than what the base game does or can do.
This day was very much like here is like there is going to be new things to look forward to, because I think
into it.
We were talking a little bit before the show, and I would say this is probably the biggest day, other than just like the sheer fact of the existence, as you were saying, of those new confidant lines. But they're integrated so much into your just day to day. Like not as a knock against Royal, but it just feels more like part of the wider game and just gives you more options, which is great. Like it's if you're just jumping into the game, it wouldn't feel weird or anything at all. But this is the first day where I was like, oh, things are different, because I was just going into this day again, as I was joking at the top of the show, not really expecting us to have much to talk about this week. I was like, oh, I whiffed it on confidant lines. There's like not a real big mechanical hook that I can think of. This is going to be rough. And then October 3rd happens.
I have many more thoughts on this too, but let's get into what actually happened. And
yes.
I'm going to, I told you this before the show already, but like, I'm going to do my best to completely be spoiler free, because I obviously know the context of all of this stuff and all the secrets, so I'm going to be entirely as spoiler free for Royal stuff as I can possibly be.
For sure.
I'm going to probably just let Jonathan lead the conversation entirely so that I don't like just jump the gun and say something I shouldn't. So if I'm a little quieter this section, that's why, but I am excited to talk about this stuff still too.
Yeah, and again, just as a reminder, if you happen to be jumping into this episode for the first time, the show in general, go back and listen. It's we're recapping the whole game. It kind of sequentially works out together. But yeah, I have not played Royal before, so everything here, I haven't been spoiled on any of it. And so this is all new to me. And oh my god.
Please don't spoil things in comments.
Yes, please do not do that.
Not that anyone has been doing that. Just like, be cool.
You've all been wonderful about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just as a general reminder for the internet. Cut to next week where someone immediately spoils something. Sure. Anyway, October 3rd. Mean Girls Day, if you will. The limit does not exist. The day begins, and suddenly I was like, oh, I'll wake up, do my... I think a funny thing about this day was I kept waiting for the free time to kick back in and for it to be a boring, normal day. Not that the game is boring, but I just mean like a traditional day. And it just kept going. So to start it off, we kind of immediately jump into stuff with Kasumi, like from minute one. And it's a discussion between her, a teacher, and Maruki, or as they all say in the scene, Maruki. They really emphasize the ma, so I don't know.
Maruki.
Yeah. Don't know if we've been mispronouncing or it's a mispronunciation of the game, because that does happen. But
I think Maruki is kind of the more correct pronunciation.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Maruki is just more fun for me to say because it sounds more like monkey.
It does.
I like
yes.
that emphasis. But that's also like not a good reason to disrespect the language of another culture.
Very much so. Yes.
Maybe I shouldn't be doing that.
We can work toward Maruki now that we have like a more obvious version of it. We can definitely say that for sure.
Yeah.
I was just going off of you saying it, and it is something that I think like when I see that word immediately. From a like English dialect version, I go Maruki. It's just sort of
it flows a little more in kind of like our
parlance
language.
But yes, if it's Maruki, we will go for it. The only reason I had flagged it was because I do know that like within the game itself in the English translation, there are times where characters' names are said different ways.
Right.
But so anyway, we get the scene with the three of them talking, and essentially it's like. We've had good news that Kasumi had done well at her last meet, but she had previously not been doing too well. And so the sense of what the scene gives us is that her honor status is very much like teetering on the edge of a cliff. Like it could be the teacher sort of blackmail-ishly implies we could take that away from you at any point, the sort of honor student status and the special privileges that she gets and things of that nature. They're putting really heavy expectations on her during this discussion to keep performing and perform at a high level that they sort of expected from her. And that if she doesn't, there really could be problems. The teacher is like, the entire faculty will support you behind this, but it also sounds like the entire faculty will immediately disown you if you don't live up to this. And so...
Yeah, it's super messed up.
It's real, like... It's one thing to say this behind a kid's back, which we'll get to in a second, but it's another thing to say it to their face in this way. And obviously, yes, if a student is brought in for like certain expectations to meet a certain bar, I think like telling them of those expectations is one thing, but the way this teacher does it is just flat out like it's blackmail. And Maruki is like, hey, this is a weird way. Maruki, excuse me, is like, there's a weird way.
We'll get used to it.
Well, yes. This is a weird way of going about this. Like, this is not the way to encourage her to do better. This is only going to put the pressure more on her. It sounds like you are really trying to, like, put the screws to her and make sure, like, do well, or, like, all of our hopes are on you. And, like, that's a really, really awful thing to do to a kid.
Yeah, and it's also in line with some of the stuff we'd been hearing, right? Like through the Hawaii trip and around that, of like that the school was cutting ties with honor students that weren't making them look good and that sort of thing. So this is sort of the manifestation of that that we get to see firsthand.
Exactly, and we get a little bit more of the truth of it in a second. But I do just want to mention I think what pushes this over the line in terms of like. A teacher's reminder of certain expectations for receiving a certain status versus blackmail is where the teacher is essentially like, oh, these changes are just hypothetical. We're not saying we're going to do this unless you keep underperforming. And it's like, okay, that's not great. So anyway, there's this whole terrible discussion. Right after that, we quickly run into her in the hallway after she drops her charm on the ground, which of course we learned a little bit more about when we were previously speaking with her. She drops it on the ground, we pick it up, and we're like, oh, we should get this back to her at some point. And so that'll eventually get us to the big moment of this all, but she, of course, is searching for that charm because these mean so much to her for, her sort of superstition of what they might mean for her performance. And she thinks to go back to the room where she was and having that discussion, and she overhears a talk between, I believe, the vice principal and the teacher, and Maruki is still there, talking about her needing to push herself. She got third place in the last meet, but that's not good enough. Things need to be better. Maruki is saying that, like, this is not the way to get the results that you want. Don't push her like this. This isn't really going to help. And they're basically like, we need her to do well. The school is in dire straits. After Kamoshida, after the principal, like, we are bad, and our expectations are that she is going to dig us out of this hole, which is a horrible thing for a school to do to a student.
Yeah, and also kind of what gets revealed here, right, is that, like, the threats of like, we're gonna take away your honor school or your honor student status are like not hollow, but also not like as like we're doing this. Like they are saying these things with the explicit intent of making her feel like she's in danger.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Like of like evoking that
so
that she'll work harder. And Maruki is very clearly like understands like this is not the way to get the results you are looking for. Like your fundamental idea of what effect this will have on her performance is incorrect.
Yeah.
And they're not listening to him. They're just saying, I think the vice principal at one point says like, your method of counseling might be to like shower her in compliments, but like we need results and we can't just like make her feel good, right?
Yeah. And that's not even what he's saying necessarily,
right? And exactly.
And what I think about like this scene, I thought was really well done because it's absolutely the sort of mentality of I think older academia and probably some academia today. I'm not going to pretend like all like higher ups in every school are totally altruistic, but there's absolutely that sense of like, I sort of like negging a kid is the way to get them to do better, which is kind of that is I don't know if that's a thing everywhere, but I definitely have seen that take place in real life. And so that felt very true to life in an unfortunate way. And just to even like push it a little bit more, they even talk about how they like took on both of the sisters, like Kasumi and her sister, and they essentially are a waste of effort at this point, since they've lost one already and now feel like the Kasumi is just becoming a waste, as they say.
The way that they talk about this is like, or the vice principal talks about this, like obviously they don't know Kasumi can hear them, but it's still like horrifically callous that he's like, we took on these sisters, right, to like increase our status, and then like one of them had to go and die, basically. Like not that exact wording, but like that's pretty much the inflection of it is like, good lord, dude, like what are you saying? And it's like, it's just really messed up.
And I think it also shows the idea of like what the Phantom Thieves are doing is good and have helped in many, many ways, but it's like there is a foundational and institutional like problem going on. And that even changing one heart at the school didn't fix the school's problems.
It's also interesting royal-wise because like the vice principal isn't really a character much in the base game. And then he becomes this sort of like villain of, the vice principal is really not much better than the principal was now that the principal is gone.
It's a rough state for Shujin in terms of the it's not a great group, but anyway, moving on from there, after class Kasumi calls. Her phone is acting up. It's being strange, and there's weird interference going on.
You get that really weird robotic call with her.
Exactly. She mentioned she's at Odaiba, the stadium that we've been to before, and that she's mentioned she goes to when she's feeling depressed. And essentially, we're like, we should bring her the charm, and we're worried about her and things of that nature. So we go to meet her, but before we can get there, we cut to that scene. She's there.
Cutscene!
Yes.
Anime cutscene.
Well, right before that, she also does have an interaction with
the
couple, just briefly to mention. Her phone's not working. She's down in the dumps calling herself useless. A man and a woman pass by. She's desperate for a parfait. This woman is like jonesing for a parfait. And I
love that this is your takeaway from this.
I'm just saying, imagine the game where we're following them, and the goal of their game is to find a parfait for this woman. But also, it feels like their relationship has deeper issues. And so anyway, they're walking by, and of course they're like, "What's this strange building being built?" And they're like, "I don't know what it is. It could be anything," and they don't really care about it. And for Kasumi, of course, that just hurts because this stadium sort of represents the dreams of what could be for her. And right now, these people are like, we don't care about it. I would say I feel like when there's a stadium being built, at least here, I live not too far from the Chase Center in San Francisco where the Golden State Warriors play. When that was under construction for months, it was just like, yeah, when the Chase Center is built, it's going to really change this neighborhood. That's like all people care about. So anyway, they didn't seem to care, which only sort of further emphasizes the idea that things are tough for her. And then, yes, as you say, we get a new cutscene, which I was shocked to get.
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing that I really love about this day happening like it does, and when it does, is we've had up until this point tons of little extra scenes or extra interactions with Kasumi or Maruki, like inserted into off days, right?
Yeah.
Like days where you're just kind of not doing anything else, or like there's already other events going on. But the fact that they insert a whole story day, and not only a whole story day, but like a whole story day where you end up in the metaverse, right, into a free period, a free time period on a deadline, is so cool and so unexpected, and so unlike anything else that's happened in the game yet. When you jump to this cutscene, it's like, wait, what is going on?
Yeah, it was really for me just like this matters. Like I was really thinking this was just going to be another like giving us a little more insight into who Kasumi is, and it was just going to take up the day or whatever. Like I really thought it was just going to be, like you said, another one of those scenes put into an off day, and they were just like, this is a good time to use it because you've had a lot of free time for this period already.
Right.
And no, it is a full, increasingly important scene, and as this new animated scene comes up, it's Joker sort of coming to find her. She's, sort of stumbled into the metaverse at this point, because the phone is beginning to navigate her into the metaverse. It gets her into this palace that is seemingly here at the stadium, which is wild. And then Joker and Morgana sort of show up into the scene in the metaverse, realize they're in their clothes immediately, which is a big deal. They're immediately in their clothes and kind of are just like, oh, we should probably go find Kasumi in the metaverse, I guess. And I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. For a minute, my brain was very much like, did they insert a palace into the middle of another palace time? I was like, oh my God, I am very much in danger. But luckily, it's not that monumental, but it's still really, really huge.
And it's just you and Morgana.
Yeah, it's just the two of us.
You don't have the party.
We get into this new new palace, which, like, the best I can describe it is like sci-fi futuristic version of a stadium with a lot of hair, I guess. I didn't quite know what those things were. The things that you're sliding down and jumping on looked like.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure.
Looked like, well, yeah, you're sure, but anyway.
No. I genuinely don't, like, because this game, like, this is like me not covering anything. Like, this game has a lot of weird architecture, right?
Yes.
So I don't know exactly what those are trying to represent.
Sure. Yeah, it looked like weird slicked back streaks of hair to me is how it looked. But I don't know what it was, because obviously I have no idea what's going on in this palace yet. But the rest of it is like smooth silver, sort of very modern minimalist look to it. Very much
white and bright.
Yes, yeah, very much like what I would imagine when they're like, here's concept art of what the stadium will look like. This very much looks like that.
And very different, right, from a lot of the other palaces you go to.
Yes.
In terms of, like, how bright it is.
Yeah. And very immediately, like, just kind of gets you into it. You explore very briefly through, like, this sort of introductory area, and then eventually slide down one of the hair slides, is what I'm calling them for now, cool. And end up finding, after hearing Kasumi yelling, you see Kasumi talking to another apparition, a cognition of some kind. I assumed it was her sister. I don't know if we've seen this figure before. I don't think we have.
I don't think we have.
I assumed it was her sister. I don't think it's ever explicitly stated in the scene, but she obviously seemed to recognize who this was. They have this conversation, and then like an evil persona. Tom, are you okay?
There's a bug. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. I was just like, is this a commentary on the scene? at some point a brand new persona, I think, I don't remember seeing this sort of like clown-esque figure come and like swipe and essentially strike down the cognition and kind of knock out Kasumi a little bit. And she's clearly having struggle. She's plagued by all these voices telling her that she's not good enough, that she's a failure, that she's a waste of time and effort and all these things. And she's just like, she comes to all of this on her own and is like, no, that's not true. I'm stronger than that. I can rise above that sort of mentality. And she has her persona transformation moment. And it just happens. And I was like, oh my God, like we didn't have to, I loved that it was her sort of independently coming to this moment. I will say, unfortunately, there's no, like when she rips the mask, there's not a crazy blood splurt or anything. So, a little less gruesome. But, she has her moment. And obviously we've seen her in her metaverse garb before, so we knew what to expect. But we get to see her persona, which is Cinderella.
Cendrillon, I think is the name in this. Yeah,
but Meredith, my girlfriend, was watching with me, and it was like, "Oh, that's Cinderella in French." I was like, "Oh, cool, okay."
I didn't know that connection. Yeah, it's kind of like a dancer, right, sort of vibe in this.
Yes, and her sort of aesthetic and the way she acts is very much like a. As you said, dancer, but tying in, of course, to her gymnast past and present. Right. She's still there. And anyway, so she has this moment. You have a quick battle with this figure, which luckily is weak to her persona, which is Bless. Who could have predicted? Right. Which I also...
she... And I think you are correct that this shadow you are fighting is I don't believe was in the base game at all.
Yeah, I think it's brand new. And so you see this, you take it down. Just a small like combat note here. Weirdly, and I don't know if it was just because of the party makeup, I found it paid not to do an all-out attack against this thing.
Oh.
Because when it was weak to Bless, I also had a persona with Joker who did Bless attacks. And so I would just weaken it and knock it down and then use another Bless attack after a baton pass. And that did like twice as much damage. So anyway, I did that, so it was less of a grindy battle. And then that battle ends, and we're kind of, able to get our bearings a little bit. The group eventually comes out of the metaverse, and we have this whole discussion with Kasumi about the reality of things.
There's also one moment I really like,
yes,
right after that fight, where Kasumi kind of starts to fall a little bit because she's just awakened to her persona, and that is traditionally in the game very exhausting for the user, and they have to complete, they're super tired after they leave, and then she's and Morgana is yeah, don't worry, you just awakened, you're gonna be exhausted, and she's no, and hulks through it and just stands back up and is ready to go, and it's dang, she's ready to she is sick of being weak, as she puts it, right? She's sick and tired of being too weak.
She picks herself up instantly. You're totally right. I remember that moment, and it was
also, how good is her transformation cutscene? It is so Sailor Moon. It is 100% her floating in a glowing void as her clothes wrap onto her, and it's it is so Sailor Moon anime. It's amazing.
My girlfriend was watching with me, and literally her first reaction as soon as she started changing was is she a Sailor Moon? What's happening? Yeah, it absolutely is. It's 100, and it's great. It's awesome for that. But yeah, her transformation is really great, and I really appreciate how much of this is sort of her autonomy, because I think that's not only important for giving her a distinct sort of difference to the group sort of having their reactions after they all come together, and I'll get to why in a second, but also because of everything she's been being put through, of being told that she's not good enough, that she herself does not live up to expectations, and this is no, that's not true.
Right.
So I really, really enjoyed that, and anyway, we come out of that battle and the metaverse in general, and she's talking with Morgana and Joker. And of course, at first doesn't realize that talking to Morgana is a big deal. And he's very excited to point out that she's talking to a cat. But he's not a cat, so how dare she? But it's a very cute moment where he's like, and aren't you forgetting something else weird that's happening? It's me, the cat. But anyway, they have this whole discussion. She comes to the realization that they are, in fact, the Phantom Thieves. And she calls back to that discussion you had with her and Akechi a ways back and is like, oh, man, I basically told the Phantom Thieves to the Phantom Thieves that the Phantom Thieves don't matter. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And so she has this great realization moment and apologizes and is wonderful all about it. And, you know, we get to the moment where, of course, well, she's now a Phantom Thief user, like she's a metaverse user. She should join the Phantom Thieves. Morgana and we invite her to the group, and we're excited to make her join, but she refuses. She doesn't want to join.
I was very surprised by this twist.
Yeah.
I was really sure that I was like, oh yeah, this is exciting. We finally get her in the party. And then nope, she's just like, nope, I gotta focus on gymnastics. And she just bails on you.
Yeah, she essentially says, like, I wouldn't be able to give you all my focus, and that wouldn't be fair to you and the Phantom Thieves when my focus needs to be on this.
Right. The reasoning is good. It's
100%
fine.
sound.
It's just like, it's very unexpected mechanically.
Yes.
When you sort of in game just expect like, oh, this person awakened to their persona, therefore they're on my party now. And she's like, no, I'm not on like in your group yet. Exactly. I have my own stuff to do just because this thing happened to me.
Totally. And I will say it does though I think fit because we still haven't gotten to that casino palace, and we do run into her there, which to me at least heavily implied that we weren't yet still together as a group.
Yeah.
She
wasn't like part of that infiltration or whatever.
Exactly. So that seemed to track, but yeah, I was kind of hopeful that she joined the party here, but alas, not yet. Or I hope she does eventually. I genuinely don't know the sort of makeup of if or not she doesn't, but I hope she does at some point. But anyway, we have this moment. She turns us down. Morgana has this cute moment where he's like, well, we'll, all meet back together and be able to, wait, what? And has that sort of freak out moment. But yeah, as you said, she explains herself. It's sound, like I understand it. So she doesn't join. We don't really tell the group about things.
No.
Because it, one, probably helps save writing too much extra dialogue. That would then have to be translated into too many languages, so it saves production, but also makes sense that we're like, let's not throw this into things while we're still dealing with this palace and everything.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, what a day of reveals. I do want to say a funny thing at the end of the scene, because full disclosure, I was doing this day right as we were trying to get dinner started. And so I started prepping some things and had my girlfriend help click through some of the dialogue. And she was very nice enough to read it out loud to me as I was preparing food. And as it got to the group text, unbeknownst to me, did a dramatic reenactment of all of the characters.
Amazing.
And really well got all of them. It was very impressive. Just sort of her quick takes on Ryuji Makoto, on Yusuke. It was very funny and very unexpected, but it was just a very great little way to end the week for me. But yeah, we sort of have this group talk with everyone to end the evening. We don't, get into the weeds of what happened with Kasumi, but like, oh my god, it was so cool to see this happen. Am I missing anything at the end of the day?
You don't get to do anything.
Right? Yes,
that. You can't, it's not only can you not leave LeBlanc that evening, you can't even do anything in your room, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just go to bed, which is, again, uncommon for Royal, but also, like, the fact that they just took an entire day out of that cycle and just said, no, this is just something happens to you today. Like, sorry, you don't get this day, is really cool and unexpected. I'm really curious. If this happened to anybody, let me know too. I'm really curious what would happen if you sent the calling card the day before. Because as far as I know, this is a scheduled event. So I wonder if you sent the calling card on October 2nd, if it would just like play this day on October 3rd, and then on October 4th, you would go in for the boss? Like, I think
Probably.
It might just delay it for a day.
Oh yeah, I don't know. That'd be really interesting to know, because I could see it working both ways.
Right.
So yeah, if
know.
anyone did that, please let us know how that played out, because I'd be really curious. But yeah, this felt so like special to have pop up, and like you said, on a day that you really don't expect anything to.
Yeah, I think they time it nicely within this free time period. It's right in the middle, basically. So it's like, it's not too early so that your like early plans with the palace get screwed up, and it's not so late that if you'd been saving it till the very end, suddenly all of your plans are a disaster, right? I think it's well placed, and
yes.
it's a very cool twist. It's a very cool sort of just like kick. Again, we talked about this with the way the palaces are presented and the way the targets are chosen when it came to Medjed and Futaba, but like Persona is very good at putting you into a comfort zone and then kicking you out of it occasionally and saying, okay, that's not how this is going to be anymore.
Yeah.
And they also like seeding things, right? Seeding early things and seeding early ideas. And like, you know, I doubt this is spoilery to say, like, they probably didn't invent this entire palace to like never bring it up again.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I was going to say, I like obviously assume this palace will be re-explored later, otherwise it's very random and we have a lot to dissect.
Right.
But yeah.
And so it's I like how they're doing this, and I like that they're not like waiting to bring this stuff up until the very end when all of the new royal stuff pops in.
Yes, yeah. I think like you could really have a situation where almost everything was kind of shoehorned in toward the end, but this they've been layering in like the foundations of who these characters are pretty well, and having a moment like this does emphasize, there is important, heavy new stuff to come. And I really, really appreciated that. I'm just so
I'm very
excited
you got to this.
It was so cool.
I'm really glad.
Oh man, it was such a surprise, and I was really, really freaking out that it was going to be a quiet week, and then we had this, and it was so cool. Very curious to hear for people who haven't played Royal before, but may have played the base game, what you thought of this being thrown in there as well. Because, as I've obviously said, I loved it, Tom. Obviously, this is your second time, but it seems like you really enjoyed it, especially the first time it happened. And so, very curious to hear what people think, for those both who did and didn't play Persona 5 previously. But yeah, as you said, we don't get a free evening or anything. We just have to go to bed. So that is the end of this week, which is wild. We will, of course, be diving into the palace in full next week, so make sure you have played through it by then.
How nicely timed was this day, too? That was
so
like,
good.
We get to talk about it this week, and then next week we can just get into the palace.
Yeah, thank God that worked out. I will say I was going to jump into the palace this day, and so didn't do that, but, full steam ahead for next week.
You had other plans.
I did, but no, now I know what my plans are for the week to come. But before we get there, we do have our end of show quizzes and such, and housekeeping to do. So Tom, I'm going to start off.
Okay. I've been trying to. So let me preface this. I've been trying to pay very good attention to Persona names, but I had a problem with this palace. And this is a little bit of a humble brag, so I apologize. I didn't go to the Velvet Room a single time this entire palace because there were only like 2 or 3 personas that I hadn't already crafted from it.
Interesting.
So I don't know a lot of the like pseudonym names for the persona names.
Interesting. Okay, well,
so this will be interesting.
I do believe I owe you one because there was one week I didn't do it to save up for Okumura.
I believe you.
So I'm gonna give you 2 just as also as a help in case you didn't see these. But so yes, this is of course where I ask Tom, and hopefully you out there as well. Please shout out the answer wherever you are, no matter what you're doing. Just answer the question out loud to the people around you. Tom, can you tell me who is the woman who brings ruin?
There's only one this is probably okay. So I think I know it because there's only one like female model persona or shadow in this palace, and I already had it. So is it Lilim?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
you got Lilim. Very nice.
Yeah.
I don't think I've crafted or encountered her yet. So
okay.
Well, you got that one. Let's see if you can get this second one. Cool. This is probably if you've seen this one, I feel like the look of it would help give it away. But this character is also known as the Dark Sun. S-U-N.
Yeah. Oh. It probably isn't that, but no. I'm like torn. Because that's like a rock.
Who?
Maybe it's that one? Is it Mitras?
It is.
Hey!
You got it. You're 2 for 2. Very nice.
Yeah, because that's the one where it's like a rock, like an asteroid that's cracking open, and that has a person with a knife coming out of it.
Yes, yeah. I like
just like a dude with a knife.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine running into that just right after class one day.
So one thing I'm nervous about, and maybe this is showing my hand for your next week's quizzes, you can get me maybe, is I know the names. There's 2 different guys who look like stars, and I know the names for both of them, but I don't know the pseudonym names. So if both their names are Starry, I don't know which one it's going to be.
Excellent. Well, I'll save that for perhaps a time in the future. But Tom, do you have a pop quiz question for the listeners and viewers out there?
So this one is a little bit weird because I wanted to do this one because I thought it was very funny, but it is something you learn about in the palace.
Okay.
So for anybody who's already done the palace and has passed it, it might be a fun quiz to like test your memory. But anybody who hasn't done the quiz, you can look out, or hasn't done the palace, you can look out for this one, and you'll probably get it pretty easily by the time you do the palace. So the quiz for today, for you to tell us your answer, play at home, is what is the Okumura family motto?
Gotta love burgers.
You got it. One and done.
Sorry to spoil it for you all.
Yeah, so what is the Okumura family motto is our pop quiz for next week. Cool. And again, if you've done the palace, you've heard it, I think, twice. And if you haven't done the palace, then keep an eye out for that, and you'll probably get it pretty quick.
Awesome. Well, you be sure to leave your answer either on the YouTube version of the show. You can tweet at either of us. I'm at JM Dornbush. Tom is Tom R. Marks on Twitter. You can find us both there. And of course, thank you for listening or watching wherever you do. You can find the show YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. No, it's Apple Podcasts. It's not iTunes anymore. I keep saying that in my head. I'm an old man now. Google Podcasts, various other places. You can find us on anchor.fm to sort of all the links for it. If you're enjoying the show wherever you do, please consider rating it, following along, subscribing, leaving a review. It seriously helps the show out a lot, and we basically just want more Persona fans to be able to hang out and celebrate Persona with us. So if you're enjoying it, please consider so. And thank you to everyone out there. I know we referenced a couple comments today, but I do know a lot of people are sort of just discovering the show and binging through it. So thank you if you're doing that. We sort of hoped the show could work that way, and we're glad it is for a lot of people. But with that in mind, I think it is unfortunately time to go to bed. Morgana is telling us we're quite sleepy. And so that is going to be the end of this surprising week of Persona 5 Royal and of Take Your Time. So Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
And thank you to everyone out there for listening and watching. And as always, nice to steal you.